Eslahi. I am the Associate Provost for IT and the Chief Information Officer for the campus. I've been here for about 15 years. And I also teach courses for computer science and MIS. One of my students is here. I do. I selected this topic, this business continuity planning topic. I've been involved with business continuity planning recently, so I have recent experience. This is something that we're doing. And I thought this would be something that would be of interest to you. It has both technology aspect and business aspect. Okay. So I have a brief presentation, and then I want to show you the tool that we use to develop and maintain the plan that we have for the campus, the business continuity plan. So basically, what do we mean by business continuity planning? So came up with this thing here. No matter what happens today, we want to be able to do tomorrow what we were doing yesterday. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. Something happens today. We're talking about could be a natural disaster, a man-made disaster, something that disrupts things. The campus closes all the time. We have had tornadoes in this area, really devastating tornadoes. There the possibility of earthquakes, so those kind of things, disruptive things. And then, UIS, like many other institutions, started paying particular attention to this business continuity and disaster recovery, mainly after the Katrina hurricane that happened here. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but 2005 in New Orleans really devastated the city of New Orleans, impacted many higher education institutions, impacted hundreds of thousands of students, and it happened at the beginning of the fall semester. Okay, and some of those institutions were closed for about close to a year. You can imagine what kind of disruption that would cause to the education. Somebody was finishing up that semester, and basically, everything was the city was flooded, everything was lost. All the records, the student records, all the computers, and everything else. So, and then about a year after Katrina, there was a conference. Most of the universities in New Orleans, sponsored a conference to sort of share their lessons, what they learned from this huge disaster. And I participated in that, and it was really good. Talk about the type of things that they could have done to sort of be prepared. Nobody was prepared for something like this. And more recently, we had another one, the Sandy hurricane. This happened in New Jersey and New York. Sort of again the same, devastation, and impacted a lot of universities and institutions. So many, people started thinking about that, paying particular attention to that. So basically, and then we've been doing that. We always have had a disaster recovery plan. Something happens, you try to recover. Okay, let's say our data center is next door. Say there's a fire. Okay, so we always have to plan what to do with that. But the distinction between disaster recovery and business continuity. Basically being able to continue business, provide services, offer courses. So that's sort of different. So that's what the focus is in here. And again, so the goal is this. Ideally, you want to be able to do what you did yesterday, regardless of what happened today. Okay. So of course you have to make some assumptions. Depending on the severity of the disaster. I mean, or something, it might be such a huge thing that really it would be unrealistic to say you would be prepared to do something like that. But again, in many cases, so we did some of the a lot of brainstorming, and so these are some of the assumptions that we're making. The plan that I'm going to talk about is based on these assumptions. Okay. So basically there is some kind of adverse event that the campus is closed. Let's say for an extended period of time. We're talking about 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Something happens that basically there's no access to the campus. Okay? And then, the assumption that the documents and equipment are permanently lost. There's say, earthquake so these are some assumptions. So the planning process, the thinking process is around this. Other assumptions, we are assuming that, we have some alternative place that we can go to. Okay? And that's part of the planning. We have made a lot of arrangements for that. So, for example, in my department, the IT, we have set up a recovery site. Hey, I want to we have set up a recovery site at Urbana. We have made arrangements with Urbana, with this sort of reciprocal arrangement. We have given them a space here, they have given us a space there. So basically, most of the critical servers that we have, Blackboard, Exchange, email, other things that we consider critical, we have replicated all of those there. So we have another data center, which is called Recovery Data Center, okay, that we have set up there at a huge expense, but necessary. And then basically, on in. Okay, there it comes. So basically, and then of course, this we have this recovery site, but it has to be basically up to date. It has to be in sync with what we have here. So one of the challenges. So basically, we have this sophisticated recovery site, and then basically we have replicated all the major critical servers there in that location, and then and basically we are continuously synchronizing everything that we have in there with that. Okay. So for example, email. Everything that all the email traffic, all the email boxes, are replicated there. So if something happens in here, we can basically redirect people to the mail server and then back. The same thing with Blackboard. So basically, you do a backup, a complete backup, and we send it to Urbana on a nightly basis. So that's so this is the assumption is so we have invested a lot in establishing a recovery site if something happens. So going on. Again, we have a disaster recovery plan, and the point of plan is no good if you don't test it. You have to periodically test it to make sure it still works, it's valid. And then also you have to, of course, keep it up to date because things change. Every time, for example, we add a new system, we have to go back to our disaster. But do we have to do the same thing in the recovery site as well? Do we have to change our plan because now we have a new system? Okay. And then, of course, the cloud computing brings up a new dimension to all of this. It opens up possibilities for many systems. We are seriously considering using cloud services instead of investing in a recovery site and others. Why not just so we are seriously looking into Exchange in the cloud. Okay, so we would have in the premises, and for disaster recovery, we would basically use the cloud version. So those are again. So going on, some assumptions. So this is the plan, the planning process, and the thinking process in here. Some clarifications or different kinds of terminology. We're talking about disaster recovery. We're talking about business continuity. So these are some of the terms that, So basically, my focus tonight is basically talking about business continuity, being able to continue the business of this university, which means, offering courses, admitting students, registering students, submitting grades, the business of the university, being able to, as a matter of fact, we call it sometimes academic continuity, because that's more appropriate. So we want to basically continue the business of the university. Okay? So that's what, and then of course, you have, as far as disaster recovery, something happens, you have to recover. Your server blows up, okay? You have to recover. So again, so that's what that is. But the point of this graph in here, there are a lot of interdependencies. You cannot basically create a disaster recovery plan or business continuity plan in isolation because you depend on many other, entities. For example, in here we are in charge of IT, but I'm not in charge of the electricity, for example. Some other department, I have to depend on them, and I have to coordinate with them. Okay. So even though we have these 4 different areas, there has to be some kind of integration and coordination, and that's what we have done. So this plan I'm going to talk about is a university-wide plan. We've got all the major departments on this campus to participate and use the same tool and the same methodology. So we're all on the same page. So again, part of it, identifying those dependencies. Okay. So anyway, so this is a sort of clarifying different terminologies. Okay. So as far as so how do you do that? So you're trying to do a business continuity plan. If a disaster happens, you want to be able to, as soon as possible, continue business, resume business, start doing classes, things like that. Okay, so basically, and the point of this in here, the point of this business continuity is the type of thing that you can do today. This is not about the type of thing that you do something after something happened. So that would be disaster recovery. This is the type of thing that you would do today to make you better prepared. Okay? That's the whole point of this, So do things today that would make you better prepared when something happens. Okay? So that's what the focus of this is. Okay? So again, the point is being ready, okay, as opposed to recovering from some disaster. Okay? So that's, I'm going to make it clear. So what do you do? Basically, there are a couple of simple steps for each unit. Let's say you take an ITS or you get on everything. You have to, the first, you start out by identifying your critical functions. What is it that you do that are critical, that have to be in place in order for the university to continue providing the services that it provides? Okay. So you start out, we have spent a lot of time basically with all the stakeholders, with all the, my team, identifying our critical functions. What are our critical functions? Okay. So we have a list, and I want to show you that. And then the next question that you ask after you have a list, okay, what should be in place? What do you need to be able to perform that function? Okay. So you have a list of like 20 functions identified. So for each one of those, what should be in place in order for you to be able to continue that function? Okay. So that's the next. A lot of time I would spend doing that. And then of course, and then you look at that, so you have these critical functions, and then you have what you need to perform those, and then you look at your current situation. What is missing? Okay? So this is your critical function, this is what you need to perform it, and what is missing? What is your plan for it? And then you start sort of putting the plan together. Okay? And then address some of the shortcomings that you have. Okay? Simple things, Simple things. You have to have up-to-date contact information for all your critical people. Simple thing, okay? You know how to contact people, okay? The campus is closed, and you need to be able, I have the system administrator, the person who's maintaining the client. I need to be able to get hold of that person. So having that information in the place that I can get to, regardless of where I am, which is a secure place, and then also, again, regardless of where I am, okay? So those kind of things. So basically all the information that you need, for example, the same, you have to have contact information from the person who's responsible for air conditioning, the lighting, things like that. So basically identifying your critical functions, what you need to perform those critical functions, all the information that you need, and all the things that have to be in place in order for you to be able to continue business. So that's part of, these are basically, and again, the action items are the type of things that you would do today. Okay. All right. So the tool that, so we spend a lot of time researching, because again, if we want to do this campus-wide, it really helps if, you have a consistent approach. Everybody approaches it the same way. They want to have 20 different plans that, So basically, we researched and we selected this product. It's an open source product, quality ready. And it's really good. I'm going to show you a demo of how it works. It's really, it sort of guides you through developing your plan. Okay. I don't know if you have experience with the U.S. tax system. You have to file your taxes. Every year we have to file. And a lot of the tax program sort of guide you through. It's a question and answer. Ask you a question, you answer it. So it develops. So this is how it works. So we selected this Quali. Quali, again, is an open source, and it's it's used widely by many universities. And currently, it's hosted at Indiana University. The servers, everything is hosted there, and we pay basically an annual fee to use the storage and use. They take care of all the backup and everything else. Okay. So the plan is there, and so there's some of reasons that. We selected this product. It's really focused on higher education. It's very usable. It's easy to use, as you can see. So, it guides you through the three main functions I mentioned. Identifying the critical function. So it sort of guides you through that in a consistent way. Gathering information. It has tools and methods for gathering information. And then identifying action items. So again, it has, and this is important, because in here, as I mentioned before, The focus is on the type of thing that you can do now, action that you take now, not something having, a plan, in a booklet or something that you pull out, something happens, you go pull out your plan and says, step one, do that. That's unrealistic. There's a disaster, you're not, it really doesn't make sense. So this is about basically doing things now, okay? Not just putting a plan together. All right, so moving on. Other functions, again, the focus is on readiness, the type of thing that you do now, and then also the action items that you can take now. It identifies those. Okay. So, and again, as I mentioned, it's focuses on the needs of higher education. It talks about instructional continuity. It has modules for that. And the best of all for us, it's customizable. We can customize. So all three campuses of the university will know are using this tool, but we have made some changes. For the one for UIS has perhaps fewer options than the one from UIC. So it's customizable. All right. So that's a tool that we use, and so I'm going to quickly demo this tool. Doesn't matter which machine I use. All right. So all I need is. I can go ahead and close that because I'm done with that.
How many people has access to the quality?
How many? I mean, at UIS or? Yeah. I'm going to show you. I have a list in here.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, again, the key in here, because I mentioned the dependencies, it doesn't make sense for one department that has a plan and other departments that depend. So basically, so again, this is all three campuses of University of Illinois. As you can see that we customized this page in here. And then, so I'm going to start. So basically, I mean, the most challenging part of this project for me, getting everybody on board, to pay attention to this. So basically, we tried different methods. Finally, I just went to the chancellor, had a talk with her cabinet, and she realized how important that is. So basically, she called everybody together and says, we need to do this. Okay. So basically, we identified all these units. So we have academic affairs, we have all the Brookings Library, we have College of Business and Management. So you can see basically, you get a list of, everybody really is involved. So basically, and we've been helping them. Basically, we provide training, we provide assistance, and we're really making good progress. We almost, in many departments, almost completed. But of course, once you complete it, then you have to have a review process that you review it. So basically, I'm just going to show you, show you our plan for ITS. So this is called University of Illinois Ready. So we changed the quality ready to UFI ready. That's for obvious reasons. So again, everything that I mentioned in here, that you need to have in place to prepare a plan. You see the tabs in here, for example. So you have a tab for critical functions, identifying your critical functions. Okay. So the process in here again. So this is a collective effort. Basically for this plan, I basically got together all my team, all the ITS team, all the system administrators, or the team leaders, everybody else. We had multiple sessions during the summer, once a week, twice a week, we get together, and we just drilled through this. So I don't want to go through all of this. So part of it, of course, you have to, because this is a university. So the first step is department information, identify, just basically, so quickly show you what that is. So in here, basically, how many people we have and, which buildings we are in. For example, ITS, we are in 3 different buildings. Okay. So that's really that kind of stuff. But really the main part of it is here. Okay. So we sat down with everybody, and then we came up with this list in here. Again, critical functions, the type of thing that has to be in place for us to be prepared. So we have financial management. Okay, people need to get paid. We have a lot of contracts with vendors, and we buy things. When something happens, You want to be able to quickly purchase things that you need. Okay, you have to have all that financial information, all the contracts that you have with all the vendors, software vendors, hardware vendors. So all of that. So that's a critical function. I mean, I have a unit basically that manages all the financials. Okay, so that's a critical function. So so of course we have network, the campus network that is critical function has to be running, and we have all the servers that we have. Okay. So that, and then we have telecommunication services. We have the telephone, the voice system, the voice over IP, video conference. So that's another one. We have a lot of databases. We have desktop services. So you get the point, basically. So for this department, these are basically we deem these are critical functions. And then of course, you give it the level of criticality. You have that one of the things that Quali helps you do that is, for example, I said this financial thing, I have these options in here, okay? So for example, we decided that this is critical number 1, it must be in place, okay? So some things would be number 2, okay? Something would be number 3. So you get the point in here. So we said that, so with network, everything's, for example, for desktop services, we say that's number 2. Desktop services, desktop, so if it's a disaster, that's not really critical, people have other. So anyway, so you get the point. So you spend a lot of time identifying these and getting everybody on the same page that these are critical. And again, I'll picture that we had all those other departments that I showed you the list doing the same thing. Okay, we sat down and helped them. So, for example, the facilities and services, the people who maintain the buildings and everything, they sat down and they did the same thing. What are our critical functions? List of critical functions and the level of criticality. They did that. So once you identify that, then of course, as they said, the devil is in the details. Now you have to, So what is so basically, and then this allows you to do, basically drill down. And as you can see, come on in. So for each critical function, so you provide a description, so people know what it is. So in here, for ours, this is basically has to do with the budget, maintaining the budget of the department. We have payroll, we have to pay bill. We have contracts that we have to pay vendors, to get things that we need. Purchasing, we purchase a lot of things. So those are the functions. So you have basically, and then who are the main key people that perform that function, okay? The Tamara is our business manager, maintains that, and then Sadie is an assistant. So you have that, basically. And then, those are the tabs are self-explanatory. Some functions have some peak period. There are things that, for example, are very, very important at the beginning of the semester. The first 2 weeks of the semester are more important. So you identify peak periods for each one of the critical functions, okay? When it's the critical time. And then what kind of documentation you have for this. Another thing that really is a side benefit of this planning process is that you identify your shortcomings, okay? Because this is going to ask you, okay, so this function is performed by Tamara and Sadie, okay? Do you have documentation? Let's say Sadie is not available, Tamara is not available. Do you have a documented procedure manual that tells you could somebody else do their work? Yes, but they have to have some instructions. So this helps you, as you go through the process, you identify your shortcomings. So hey, we need to have a documentation for this. Okay, so those are the actions that I mentioned. So those are the actions that you take. Say, so this takes a long time because we said that we don't have documentation for this and that and that. Okay, so you stop your plan, tell people go develop documentation. And then this tool also allows you to put a copy of the documentation here. Okay, again, this is a cloud-based service. It's not here. Something happened here. All the documents are gone. Okay, so but as long as you have access to a web browser, you can go in there and the documentation in there. So you identify your peak period, your documents. Okay, the most important thing, dependencies. Okay, so this function, for example, depends on the payroll department. The university has a payroll department. We do payroll for our own staff, but we depend on the payroll department to cut the checks. Okay, so we identify the dependencies. So you go in here, and then you basically think about the consequences. What would happen, if you're not able to pay people? Okay, you expect them to come in, you're in disaster, and you're not able to pay them. How are you going to do that? Okay, And then also, so you get the method, and then you have action items. Okay. So again, this tool sort of guides you to go through this in here. So, for example, peak periods in here for this particular function is January, June, July, August. This coincides with the fiscal cycle the university has. So that's what it is. Documents, we identify all the documents that we need. We have a list of documents in here. Okay. So we have a lot of documents in here. And then dependencies, we identify dependencies. And dependencies, basically, there are two types of dependencies. One is called upstream dependencies and downstream dependencies, okay? For example, upstream, we depend on facilities and services. This function depends on ITS, and AITS is a university-wide system. So, and then you have downstream dependencies, all other units that depend on you, okay? So you have two sets of dependencies. What do you depend on? What others depend on you? Upstream and downstream. So you spend a lot of time identifying those, make sure this is a comprehensive list. So that's we did that. And then moving on, consequences, we talked about that, So for example, one example would be Blackboard contract now being renewed. For example, bank is we have an annual contract and you have to pay in order to be able to use the product. Okay. So this disaster happens during the time that, the contract is due. And then the contracts are, basically every year we get a new contract. So there has to be negotiation. There are some steps involved in doing that. It's not just paying, cutting a check because the rates, go up, go down. So anyway, so that's that. And then, you sort of, brainstorm and say, how are we going to cope with this? Okay. A disaster and this function has been impacted. How are you going to cope with this? And then identify some of the action items that we need to perform. And you can see this in here. And again, this is another aspect of this. So this is a work in progress. This is a live document. Every time there's a change in your environment, you have to go change this. Anyway, so that gives you some idea. And again, also the same thing. You go to network server, you go to the same thing. You have what are the peak periods for the network services? As you can imagine, is what? Every day. Okay, network has to be up every day, every month, every day. So, and then there's documentation, the copious documentation that we have in there, okay, and this describes what the documentation is, all the network diagrams, all the procedures, how to restart the machine, how to back up the machine, all the dependencies. So again, you have upstream dependencies, downstream dependencies, all of that. So you get the picture basically. So that's you spend a lot of time on this step number 2. That's really planning goes a lot of time in here, and then this one basically all the technologies that we have. Okay, a listing of all the technologies that we have and we have to have in place. Okay, so we have, for example, you probably don't know that, all the door access systems that we have, the card swipe that you get to the buildings and stuff like that, we maintain that. We have a server in here, for example, okay? And if the server goes down, then nobody can get into anything, okay? So we have to, basically that's the purpose of this. So we identified all of this, basically, and, thought about it and documented the procedures, the requirements for every one of this, okay? So we have quite a number of these. So that goes under your information technology, and then so again that broken down into all the applications that you have, all the servers that you have, all the workstations that you have. You get the picture, So this is a sort of lengthy process. Anyway, so and then in here, this really doesn't apply to that. This is instruction. This applies to departments and colleges. Okay. There are, for example, for a MIS department, the primary function is what? Teaching, offering courses, okay, scheduling, things like that. So basically, for us, we don't have that. But because if you go look at a computer science plan or MIS plan, you would see all the everything that's needed to be able to schedule courses and offer courses. The name of the faculty, who can teach, from home, who can teach from remotely. You have to identify all of that. Okay. So again, for us, this doesn't apply. And then you have, again, these are all self-explanatory. Then, of course, you have to identify all your key resources that you have, key resources that has to be in place in order for you to continue business. So you go in here, we identify how many people can work from home. Okay, then you have to keep that at, and then what do they need to be able to work from home. Okay, you have to make arrangements ahead of time. So I have all the curriculum people, system administrators. We provided them with connectivity. They basically, no matter what happens, they can do their functions from home. Everything can be remotely controlled. So you do that. All your teams. You have an inventory of the skills that you have. Okay, because a disaster happened, you need somebody who is good with this database. Okay, you go in here and you have identified people who are good with, troubleshooting databases. So you get the picture basically. So you have to you go through this iterative process, and then again, once you finish, you have really a good plan. And this plan, it's easy to use, as you can see. Something I can go in here and just, if I'm looking for people with certain skills, I go to that tab and that. And then this. Other things, again, all of this, who are the stakeholders for this particular function, and so you identify all of this, and then finally, I mentioned to you that part of this is basically the action step, the type of thing that you need to do now. Okay, so after we went through all this process, now we said these are the type of things that we need to do basically to be able to be prepared. So, and then of course you have what are the costs associated with this. Some of the things, for example, I told you about the recovery site that we have in Urbana. It's very expensive to do that. So you have to make a justification. You have to campus basically. This is, and it's really, it's one of the biggest accomplishment that we have had. If something happens to the email server exchange, we can recover email in 5 minutes. It's just a matter of redirecting the DNS redirection to the servers over there. You can continue working. For Blackboard, about 4 hours. If something that this whole campus blows up, everything goes down, and then we have servers basically that are continuously being replicated. So again, you associate costs with all of this. Okay, you have that. And anyway, so this is, and then of course after you finish this, you have to continuously update it, and then there is a test plan for some of these. Basically, identify how often do you need to test this. Okay, the action steps that you have in here. So, and then as I said, again, this is we have all this departments been doing the same thing. Okay. And as a matter of fact, you can see how that when some of them, most of them supposed to be finished. Basically, this was a summer project for the campus. Okay, this is something that the chancellor decided, and by all indications, there are some exceptions. Some still working on it, but then we have basically everybody really, again, the nice thing about this, the benefit of this, as you go through this, you just examine your processes. Sometimes they do these things still make sense? This is my function. That's how I do it. That's an opportunity for you to re-examine that process. Does it still make sense? And all departments end up changing the process as a result of this. Say, hey, there's no need for me to do this and that. And we find out a lot of people, are buying this external hard drives. Everybody, buying external hard drives, and sometimes they take it home with them. They lose them sometimes. But we have many other facilities for storage. We have so many options for storage. Much better storage facilities. And so anyway, so that's another aspect of this is very, very beneficial, is to sort of re-examine your processes, okay, and refine your business processes. And this is one of the students who likes. You can come in if you want to. This is another topic, but you can come in. So anyway, I think I hope I have given you sort of like a good picture of what is involved in doing business continuity or academic continuity. The goal is basically if something bad happens, for us to be able to resume most of the functions.
of the university. One of the advantages that we have at UIS is that we have a large number of online. We are very good with online. Most faculty know how to teach online. And that's really a big advantage because really, I mean, if you teach online, then you're not place dependent. Time, you can do it from anywhere. I mean, people are there. So that's a big advantage. So as far as offering courses, I mean, right now we have I mean, a third of our students are online students. They never set foot on campus. Okay, so that really gives us a great advantage. That we are so we've been doing online since 1999. Offering courses. So that puts us in a good, as far as it puts the academic departments in a good position to be able to offer courses from practically anywhere. And then for IT, from IT perspective, the fact that we have 3 campuses, that also gives us a great advantage. We can have this arrangements. As I told you, for example, the recovery site that we have at Urbana, we made arrangements. We gave them space in the basement of University Hall. We had plenty of space. They have their servers in there, and we have this connectivity, fiber connectivity between the 3 campuses. Okay, so they are doing the same thing that we are doing. So we are their disaster recovery site, and they are our disaster recovery site. Okay, as a matter of fact, we are now talking with Chicago to have another level, something, because sort of like the proximity. Some people are concerned about that, between Springfield and Chicago, So anyway, so that also puts you in a good position if you are a multi-campus university. That helps you with that as well. With that, I'm again, I hope I've given you a good picture of how this business continuity works, how you develop it, and then any questions that you have, I'm more than happy to answer your questions. Then several other nice features of this. This allows you to let me quickly show you some other things. For example, it has sometimes collecting the information for some departments. Not everybody is in one place. Can get them together and collect the information. It has survey tools, for example. You can just send the faculty or others a survey tool. Hey, you teach this course. What are your requirements for to be able to teach this course? If you cannot come to campus, what do you need to be able to teach the course? So you send them a survey form, they complete the survey, comes back in here, and then you have somebody enter it in there. So you notice in here, we have you can make a copy of the entire plan. You can print. You have print different sections of your plan. The printing function it has an interview form. Basically you have to go sit down and collect the information. So it has an interview form that sort of guides you through. And then you can give access. It has good access control. Of course, you have a lot of confidential information in this plan. You have to control access to it. We have the network diagram, for example, for the entire campus. So that's confident. So it has good authentication and authorization system in place. Who has access. So you can basically add users and give them this different level of access. Who has access to what. So all of those are critical, and you have to, people come and go. You have to keep that up to date. Who has access? If somebody left, the system administrator left, and they have access to the whole thing. So again, and then anyway, so and then and then final step is basically if you go through the process, you complete this, and then the unit head is supposed to sign off on it. Okay. So the last step is basically the unit head's responsibility to go through this and make sure this is complete, and they sign off on it.
Okay. A question from online.
Sure. I asked the question. All right. So you're early, huh?
So let's just try to. John let me give you a microphone so you can. Okay. So you can quickly ask question. Let me see.
Sorry, it's on.
Okay, it's typed. So the question is, what if the internet server goes down? Then how do we access the tool?
Well, of course, this tool resides in the cloud, okay? So yeah, that one of the assumptions that you have, somehow you have connectivity from some location, somewhere. For example, if something happens, the assumption here, something happens at this campus, we can go drive, or hopefully, as a matter of fact, I have staff members who live in, other, people, system administrators who live in Lincoln, for example. Okay, I have system people who work in Decatur, or live in Decatur. So the assumption is that basically you can travel to some other location that has connectivity. And then the other nice thing that we have now, that we have cellular connectivity. It's not just the cellular connectivity. You can do most of a lot of things. I can access this with my phone. Okay? As long as I have that kind of connectivity, I can go to this plan with my phone or my iPad or whatever. Okay? So you have basically, So, but of course, yeah, that's true. And also, as I mentioned, you can have a copy of, one of the options that you have is at the end of the plan, print a copy of it. Okay, so that's something that we haven't really decided to do, because basically keeping things in sync, I hesitate to do that. You make a copy of it, and then of course you make a change. You have to make sure that you go print another copy. So that's one of the things I'm discussing. That basically the critical people would also have a printed copy of this plan that has all the information. So those are some of the measures that you have to take. But again, you're sort of assuming that, and it becomes, a good assumption that you have connectivity.
So there's a comment here that says, wouldn't that be better to make an offline backup of the tool itself?
Well, as long as we do that as the tool itself.
Yeah.
Well, the tool is, again, the tool is in the cloud, okay? And as I said, right now, currently it's hosted at the Indiana University. And I believe they do that. I'm pretty sure they do that.
Yeah.
They have, they probably have a disaster recovery site for all that stuff. And this is one of them, So and then really, they have one of the most sophisticated technology infrastructure in the country, Indiana University. And basically they have that. And again, part of our testing is this, okay? So you're at a different location, make sure you can access it. But those good question.
Anybody else? I have a few questions.
Sure.
So the access control meaning that nobody on campus can have a view on the entire campus documentation.
That's true. That even is true about, for example, that's a good, absolutely. You can control who has access to the plan.
Right.
So basically each plan has a plan administrator. Okay. We have every department has designated one person who's the key person. And there are others basically who need to have access to input information. So for example, I showed you in here.
So say for example, from here we cannot see part of your business.
Well, I mean, because so for me, for example, the one that has basically, you see that the one that has this yellow thing. I have access to these because I've been working with them. Okay. So I have access, for the Brookings Library and CBM, Chancellor's Office. But again, for example, I cannot open this career development thing. I have no access to it because I really had no involvement. And as a matter of fact, these, the reason I have access to it because they call and ask questions, and I want to be able to guide them to it. But once this plan is complete, I'm going to remove my access from it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, access control is important because again, you have a lot of sensitive information here that you have to protect. And of course, from tampering, you don't want somebody to go and change a phone number or something. Good point.
And don't be shy. I have a lot of questions. I saw that, say for example, I saw the level of critical over the application.
Sure.
So the one is highest.
The one is highest. Basically, if you go to the critical function, so for example, we said that, server and administration is mass continue. It's a life, health, and security. The second, though, is mass continue RTO with, you can recover, if it's okay, that level 2, it's okay if you can recover within 8 to 24 hours. Okay. And then level 3, basically, if you have to pause it, you can pause it. There's a service that can wait a day or 2. Okay. And then you go on, and then, basically those are the.
Yeah, because I saw that the box document was classified as level 3.
Was it? Okay, you noticed that? Okay.
Yeah, the box is the cloud storage.
Okay, I see. Okay, level 3. Well, no,
if that stopped and all my documents, I can update documents. see it. I have a copy of my computer.
Because you sync it with your computer.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, again, no, that's a good point. I mean, again, the Box is also a cloud service, really, and part of the agreement that we have with them is that they have a disaster recovery and all that. It's part of the service level agreement that we have with Box, that they guarantee, access regardless of what happens. Yeah. So, again, a lot of thoughts and brainstorming, getting everybody to agree on things, you can imagine how difficult it is, The person who's in charge of that service always may think that, it has to be one, the most important thing. So you have to make a lot of judgment calls and, compromise. Good point as well.
Yeah. No.
So thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you for all the online students who are actually being very attentive and asking questions. That's a nice thing for everyone, and we've got a good turnout. So the student chapter of the Association for Information Systems, we are actually planning to host a series of speaker events. This is the first event of the series, so we are actually planning to host almost 5 of those events in this coming semester. So today was the first event, and stay tuned, guys. We are planning to have much more events in this semester. So we'll update you, and if you have any questions or any feedback, do send us an email to scais@uis.edu. That's our official email ID. So thanks you, everyone. And if you have any questions, please, for maybe to any one of us. I mean, like, if you have any questions, like, what are we supposed to do for the coming semester? Let us know. We'll help you with it, and we'll provide you more information. The next event, most probably, we are currently in talks with different professors, preferably MIS department, because that's almost like all of the students are from the MIS background. So we are in talks with all of the professors. So there's one event which is confirmed. It's going to be on October 17th, and the speaker for that event is going to be Dr. Dave Larson. And I think everyone must have been pretty much aware of who he is. And yes, we will let you know. And there are a couple of more professors who we think like they're interested in giving us the seminars. So we'll let you know when is the date and the time that they could tell us, and then we'll make a seminar event. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And one more thing, I'm so sorry if I was interrupting.
I just put down the website. If you're interested in learning more about quality, just go search for quality. Quality Ready is called Quality.
And there are actually a couple of more events which we have planned for this semester. Professor, can you just use your Blackboard account so that if you could just browse it, we have the
I enjoyed it. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm here if anybody has any questions. Thank you. So I come back about 6 o'clock.
Maybe it's your document, please.
So this is actually your tentative schedule, which the course of events which you are planning for this semester. So those were the actual rough probable dates, but we might not actually follow those dates. But these are the activities which you are planning to host, and the speaker series and the event which you are trying to host. Actually, it was number 8, which actually came on to number 1. And so there are like in total there are 5 professors who are going to host this seminar, the speaking series. And apart from that, what else do we have? Field trip to Chicago. That's one of the most interesting things which we have planned for this semester. That we are going to plan a trip to Chicago. Most probably a industry or university or University of Chicago. All right. So we are actually planning to go to University of Chicago to go and have a look at their data center and just to get more. It's kind of a field information trip. So that's the kind of trip which we are planning to get on this semester. And elections for new board members, of course, yes, we are going to get replaced. That's for that. And there are two competitions which we are actually hosting it. The one is the website and the project competition. What exactly this is till now we don't really. This organization doesn't have a website of its own. So we actually thought, why don't we have it presented as in competition, wherein like all the members, regardless of being members or not, all the people on campus, they can be a part of it. They can register for this and they can actually submit their work, and if selected, they will get an opportunity that the website being created by them will be actually be used by our organization. That's one. And we are going to have prizes as well as the certificate. So we're going to let you know in detail what kind of prize and certificates we are going to offer in return of the website which we are going to select. That's one. And pretty much done. This is our tentative event calendar. And let us know if you have much a better plan, or maybe some other idea which you want to share with us. So let us know. We are open to it. And one more thing I would really like to share is, I think in the month of October 16th or 18th, Dr. Dave Larson is going to host a seminar, and he wants all of you to decide and let him know the topic which you all are interested in. So he is free to give a presentation